All right, nerds, we're back, and today we have Tailgunner Brewing. We have Kale, and we have Mike. Kale on the left, Mike on the right. Am I right? Or is it the other way?
I'm Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Mike.
It
depends which left. And then, of course, Kyle and myself, Wally. So it is IPApril, and they have an IPA we're going to try. Their Canadian Harvest IPA. Off screen, we're talking. Let's just go right into this. Off screen, we're talking about you having a double IPA, and I seen it on your Instagram. So that's one of your. Is that a seasonal or regular?
It was just one of the beers that we. I think it was our third beer that we brewed. Blake Enmark, our brewmaster, he had a brew schedule laid out for us, and he wanted to go with the double hop, and Mike and I agreed. Obviously, full trust in what Blake was looking to brew. And surprisingly to us, to be quite honest, the double hop, it sold out within about a month of just through distribution because our tap room wasn't open. So we didn't realize it at the time, but it quickly established itself as one of our core beers, and we actually have it in our fermenters right now. So it'll be coming back on the shelves here in the next 3 weeks. We can it on April 26th or 21st, somewhere in there. So yeah, we're excited for that one to get back.
So this one is Centennial and Cascade. Is the other one similar, just higher alcohol, or is it different hops?
It had some different hops in it, and I can't remember what Blake put in it, but it's red was great tasting beer. But I'll be honest with you, it can sure sneak up on a guy. It's 9 point whatever.
Couple of those on the patio. Yeah.
We were playing poker one night, and I decided to have 3 of them, and let's just say I didn't make the final table.
So you didn't win anything, right?
I play poker the same way. I get bored and get drinking, and then that's and that's the end of her.
Yeah. So Tailgunner's based in Calgary. You're originally contract brewing out of Field and Forge, but now you have your own brewery on 10th Ave. So how long have you been in there brewing in there, and when do you expect to be barring being allowed to be open, when do you expect your tap room and everything to potentially be open?
Yeah, so we had some grand plans, towards the latter portion of 2018, 2019. Mike and I are partners in a couple of different construction companies, and Mike kind of came to me one day and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a brewery, and would you like to be my partner?" And right away I was like, "Yeah, we've been to a million breweries. I love the scene. Yeah. Who doesn't want to get into the craft beer scene?" And we were lucky enough. We got the building here on 10th. We were really excited. It was even before our neighboring brewery, Two House, who's actually moved down the street now. Before they were in, everything else, and then we had started modeling out the Tailgunner. In through 2019, had our brew schedule, our equipment procurement schedule, our construction schedule, everything, and then COVID hit, and it really, like for everybody, kind of turned everything upside down. And in towards the summer of 2020, we stopped construction, and as you said, Wally, we decided to focus on distributing our beer to get our beer market presence out and get some brand awareness and everything else. So, and during that time, we were lucky enough to get the funds in place to procure our equipment and get it in-house. And it was about a 4-month period to get it all hooked up and map out the brewery proper and get our permits in place and our licenses and everything else. And so long story short, here we are entering into spring 2021. We're finally brewing out of the building. And in terms of the tap room, we're doing everything we can to make sure we're open for the summer here, coming in towards the latter portion of June. And hopefully, fingers crossed, if everything goes well during Stampede season here in Calgary, where really all of Alberta kind of, gets summer underway with, however many weeks of summer we end up with this year before it's winter already again. Right. That's high level, our goal. We've been fortunate enough to have a lot of people interested in become shareholders in the company and giving us the means to get a portion of the tap room underway and get our patio built out and everything else. So we're pretty excited with being able to fight through COVID and get to this point, being a new business, brewery or not, really in these times and through 2020 and 2021.
Good. So you guys, the area you're in is actually really cool because you said you have Two House, but I could see it become a district. Inner City is there. Last Best is down the street. There's another one. I can't remember who there is. There's another brewery in between you guys and Inner City too. So kind of a neat neighborhood too to be in. And I always find like it pretty cool that people are willing to invest in craft brewing, despite there being 40 breweries in Calgary. People are still like, yes, more beer, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
more of the scene.
Yeah,
So
we heard a lot of that actually. Well, you're getting into a market that's really saturated, and coming from construction, I don't think these people understand what saturated means. So we're okay. Like this is like a big wild new frontier for us. I mean, it's it's exciting, and it's a real different type of business with different people and players involved in construction. So we love it. We love it so far.
Yeah, we had a historian on one of the shows. She actually owns Theoretical Brewing, and
So
sorry. So she said she made an interesting point. So Lethbridge,
I was going to say,
host 9 breweries, right, Kyle? Was it 9 breweries or something? Yeah,
based on the size. Yeah.
So
based
what's
on the
that
size.
mean?
Yeah, because she was saying back, earlier, in the before, like long before, they said each neighborhood would have its own sort of brewery, like pre-prohibition, and you would just have your neighborhood brewery, and that's what it was. And she said, like, we same as Calgary, right? I mean, there's probably tons of places where you're like, yeah, no, these are just my neighborhood and where I like to go and where I like to drink. And so it's pretty cool. But what I was going to ask is, tell me about the name Tailgunner, because I got to tell you, the can caught me, especially with a name on it. And then the story on the back is incredible, amazing stuff. And so talk to me a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about how you came across the name Tailgunner, and then what's with the story? Because like I said, I think it's very cool and unique, and yeah.
You want me to go? Yeah. So obviously, a fun part of coming up with this stuff is coming up with the name and the brand and everything like that. So I actually had a small holding company, and back in 2014, I called it Tailgunner after my grandfather, who was a tail gunner in a Lancaster in World War II. Anyway, that was it. Just a kind of a nothing number company with a name. And anyway, Cale and I, being partners in the construction company, he knows about that company, knows about the name, knows about my grandfather. And while we were trying to come up with names, it was the very first thing out of Cale's mouth. He's like, well, man, it's got to be Tailgunner. And, from there, we had a really, really neat core story that, really hits home for obviously me. But, it's not just about my grandfather. It's trying to get people talking about, their history, their family's history. World War II and World War I, obviously, everyone was involved. And whether they were in the war or not, everyone was affected by it. And, I think it's important to not lose that piece of family history, because we're not that far removed from it, right? Even though those people may or may not be around anymore, I think it's
for sure
important to talk about it. It was a big moment in time. So yeah, it was fun. It felt good. We're just having a blast with it. And, speaking to it, our new beers coming out and stuff, it's, we're able to, kind of pull back a bit and play the greatest generation side of things versus, the flight crew, or just strictly about war or anything like that. Right. It's more about a time. So we're having some fun.
That's actually, and it's funny, Barb says this, my mother.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, and like I said,
my father's father-in-law. No, my
father-in-law.
My mom's. So my great grandfather was a tail gunner. So that's actually, like, when I emailed you guys, I'm like, man, like, it's an instant connection, which, right, I seen the can and it attracted me instantly because of the art and everything. I'm like, well, let's look at this. And I'm like, well, it's a cool story. I'm going to email these guys and get them on the show, because I think it's just a neat story to talk about. And just like really good branding, accessible for everybody. The beer is very good, by the way. We never talked about
it
the
caught
beer,
me, like, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Larry's.
I said we've got a couple of sips. We'll get there. But yeah, like
my father-in-law's father was a tail gunner as well on a Halifax bomber. My great grandfather was on I think it was a Lancaster. I'm very sure of it. I'm arguing with my mom about it, but I'm very like instant connection, right? Makes
well, yeah.
people
So
pick up the
like,
beer.
yeah. Well, and for the nerds part of us being the fermented nerds, like history is included in that. So
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you guys more when it comes to the history of war, especially the First World War and what it meant for Canada as a country and, you know, becoming a country. And I saw that when I was looking at the can, and so I'm going to share it. I'm going to put it up on screen here as best I can. That stuck out to me. Remember,
Yeah,
right? And I was just like, this
good deal for us.
I was like, these guys are going to be awesome. You know, read the story, tasted the beer. I was just like, it's so cool that, it got big on me too. So I saw it and I was like, this is awesome. So I wanted to make sure I talked to you guys about that because, I think it's really cool. Yeah.
So when you guys said you're about a year-ish now, right? Like when did you guys brew your first beer? And what was it?
We our first contract brew at Field and Forge was in June of 2020, and as I said before, our first beer that we brewed out of Tailgunner happened. It started about a month ago, and and we're actually canning our first can run on Thursday of this week with our Dame Dorothy is our first beer out of the gate. So we're pretty excited.
So this is interesting because like a lot of breweries, for people who don't watching, is that a lot of breweries do in Calgary anyways, you brew at a Field and Forge or Tool Shed or wherever because you don't necessarily
Last Spike's the other big one.
Yeah. So because you don't necessarily have a brewery yourself, you're working on a business plan, but you want your beer out. So what's the difference between brewing there? Is it your guy goes there and brews, or is it the guy at Field and Forge?
It's actually Field and Forge. They do all their own brewing, and it's such a great team up there. But we selected Field and Forge specifically, obviously doing some reference checks and everything else. But they had an immaculate water system that Blake was really attracted to, in particular for our Czech Pilsner. Our plan forward is to be lager centric at Tailgunner. We're going to be coming out with a sour and the different IPAs and everything else. But what we really want to bring to market that we don't see a lot of other breweries doing is have a portfolio of lagers. And to do that, obviously you have to give up some of your tank space. It takes much longer. It's a much more involved process to get the lagers going. But Field and Forge, fortunately for us, they kind of had all the checks in the boxes because we knew launching, another craft beer option here in Alberta during the summer, COVID or not, we knew that we couldn't come out and have a face plant. And fortunately for us, Blake was extremely hands-on. He was up there multiple times and every day having communication with the Field and Forge team about the brew process and how Blake wanted things done between his hopping procedure, right down to the water, everything that went into the beer. And then we went up and tasted it throughout the process to make sure it was on track. And that was a pretty special day for Mike and I when we went up, when we finally got to taste Lindt Stevenson, our flagship beer, the Czech Pilsner, out of the break tank. And it was 8 o'clock in the morning. And let's just say that Mike and I had to get some people to drive us home.
At 11. For lunch, yeah. The problem with that is there's nothing left to do for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's right. I couldn't say nothing about Field and Forge. They were our first choice and only choice to help us out with some contract brewing till we're up and running. And, we're certainly going to always entertain continuing that relationship if we get beyond capacity or whatever else. But they were great allies getting us off the ground.
So when you had that first beer at 8 in the morning, were you like, oh, yeah, this is going to work. Let's find a spot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can say from my experience, it's the first time ever drinking out of a bright tank, and the little pigtail thing that comes out. I don't know if you guys seen that. So anyway, it's a slow pour, comes out, and I mean it looked like a beer commercial. Like, it was hilarious. It was super clear, the little bubbles, everything was so perfect. And yeah, I'd say in about 15 minutes, they were like, "Hey guys, easy." Slow down. We were just filling up one after the other, just having a blast. So yeah, it was incredible. And also as well, Field and Forge, their group, really respected Blake and his methods, and there must have been, I don't know how many times we went up there, Kill, like 3 or 4 it'd like every time, it'd be a different brewer that would come up and go, "Hey, like, wow, we learned a lot from Blake," and it's supposed to be NDAs and everything. Nobody's supposed to talk about it. But I mean, it was pretty neat anyway. They were just like, you have a really special brewer there. What a great guy, approachable guy. They enjoyed working with him to create these beers, and we couldn't be happier. Like they came out as intended or better. So we're happy.
So I've been meaning to ask about Blake, and I mean, this is going to be a good segue. How did you hook up with him? It's kind of like, so looking at his resume, worked for Great Lakes Brewing when they were the brewer of the year twice in a row. He trained under the former head brewer of Doo CL, which is magic brewery.
Man.
Amazing brewery, right? So that was Luc Lafontaine. And then he helped make Tokyo Drift, which is one of the best beers Alberta's ever produced. Like honestly, like it sells out every time. Amazing IPA. So how did you headhunt him? Did you stumble across him? Did he find you?
It is an interesting story. So we actually had a strategy advisor come in to the fold. John, who owns Oak and Vine here in Calgary. It's a local.
Can we say this now?
Yeah. John was, we came to John and Mike and I kind of had a list of beers that we liked, local beers that we liked. And by no means were we headhunting people, from other breweries. We were just trying to model out, okay, so what separates this brewery and their quality of beers, their portfolio of beers. And we were talking to John about that. Being a distributor, he gets to talk to all the different breweries and sales agents and everything else. And Blake's name kind of popped up. And at the time, he was working at OT Brewing. And Mike and I, we went down there. We tasted his beer. We knew that he won a couple awards even at OT in the last couple of years that he was there. And we kind of put the feelers out a little bit to see, first of all, if Blake would entertain, if he was looking, he was happy where he was before we even really talked to him. And that came through John. And Blake said, no, at the time, his wife had just become pregnant and he was quite happy and stable at OT Brewing and everything else. And, it kind of evolved from there where Blake was asking more questions about Mike and I. And then we requested just to meet with him. So we went to OT and just kind of sat down and took a look at kind of his equipment there and his process and everything else. And we had a great conversation with him. We said, well, Blake, for Mike and I, with our experience in the construction companies, and the most important thing for us with anybody that we bring under our employees is alignment. We're big believers in that, talent, skill, everything else is one thing, but if you can work with somebody shoulder to shoulder every day and have those open lines of communication, and Blake, just his demeanor and how he carried himself and beyond having proficiency and mastery in brewing, we feel at a very young age, he's just a good person. And that really attracted us to Blake. So we brought him in the conversation. He learned more about Mike and I and got to know us a little bit. And, he had communicated with OT. He really liked it there. He loved the owners at OT and everything else. But he had been, in fact, entertaining a change for a little while. And then, in proximity to where he was living, and then understanding that, coming to Tailgunner, he really have a voice and freedom to create a brew schedule and the type of beers that, he was really attracted to. He really was enamored with the fact that Mike and I really wanted to be lager-centric. As a brewmaster, Blake really didn't have that opportunity at other places for whatever reason, tank space and everything else. So from there on, we just kind of had the conversation, and it kind of went on for about a week. And within, the next day of us kind of offering a position to Blake, and he thought about it, and very fortunate for Mike and I, he decided to come over and parted very on good terms with OT Brewing, and came over with the understanding that he wouldn't be able to brew for quite some time. We weren't expecting it to be a full year because COVID hadn't really taken off at the time, and so on and so forth. But he's been patient and obviously, instrumental, leading the charge with us getting out to get some awareness about our beer and our brand and everything else.
So you guys talk like businessmen. You can tell by
being lager centric is different too. Yeah, because that's different.
But let's talk about that first.
I think I'm delayed.
Lager centric thing. We'll talk about the business after. That is not a thing that people do. Like, right? It's like old school kind of brewing. Just other than far, it's kind of a bit of a lost art, in Alberta. What made that, like, why that decision? Or is that how you can just stand out? Again, we talked about saturation. It's like, well, nobody's making good people make good lagers, but
yeah, to be honest, I think it's kind of twofold for both Mike and I. Those are our favorite types of beers.
Yeah,
that's why what really attracted us to craft beer was a lot of the different lager offerings. That's always been kind of our favorite beers. Not to take away from sours or IPAs or whatever it was, but yeah, we were really, really excited about that. And then developing, as you mentioned, Wally, our business model, our business plan, we saw a market opportunity to come in understanding that we had the facility that could house the capacity and the equipment that would a lager centric program that it would demand, while maintaining market presence with some of the other core beers in the craft beer industry, IPAs, sours, what have you. But we knew that we wanted to model it out because we saw it on twofold. We're very excited. We love lagers, and we want to make our own and bring it to market. And to do that, we knew that we'd have two separators where we needed the equipment in place, and also, as I mentioned, a big market gap we feel within the craft beer industry, certainly in Alberta, where there's an opportunity to bring some lagers and really get people excited about lagers in tandem. We hope, to maintain a good, healthy craft beer environment and atmosphere in Alberta, along with the IPAs and the hazies and everything else that goes along with your scene.
Cool. I think Kyle had a question or something. Kyle, did you have something?
Cool. Well, I was going to say we should. So now that we've talked a bit about the business stuff, I said let's talk about the beer a little.
Yes,
because I've had about half of it now, so I think I'm ready to. I think we're just about ready to start on the IPA. So, well, what do you think, Wally? What's your first pass at it?
It's West Coast, which is missing these days. But like in the IPA scene, it's very like hazy, super fruity. I like it. It's resiny a little bit. The hops come through. Too many people are doing. I reviewed this like a rogue beer, and it was like a 6-hop beer, and it was just like overdone IPA. And I think people do that. They kind of overdo their IPAs, especially like this haze thing that's going on, which is fine. But I'm like an old school West Coast guy, and I think it hits the right notes. I just cracked your Pilsner too, so you can watch that live, but. It has a really good body.
I was going to say the same thing to you. I really like it too. It's got like a real fresh taste to it.
Yeah.
There's the can, by the way.
Thanks, guys.
But yeah, so I feel the same way too. It's got like a real, no problem. Yeah, it's got like a real sort of fresh taste to it that I'm really digging. And you're right. It's got almost an old school flavor to it that I'm really into.
Yeah.
And like I said, I put about half of it down here in the last 20 minutes. So.
It has a great mouthfeel, which is important for a West Coast IPA. If it's too watered down, it just finishes immediately. I like when it has a good mouthfeel, you get the hops in, because especially West Coast hops, I find, and they use Centennial and Cascade. So you're going to get like tropical fruit and some orange and whatnot, some citrus, and then into like the pine. You kind of want both separate. And I think it does a great. This is an excellent beer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know what? I do want to make one comment about that beer that you guys might find interesting. It's actually one of a very, very limited number of beers that have been brewed that actually is 100% Canadian ingredients. So we didn't go across the border for anything on this one. This is pretty neat stuff, and it's actually this specific batch here. Can kind of only be done once a year based on some of the ingredients we have to get.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a neat one. It felt right. That's why we called it Canadian Harvest, and we're just happy as heck with it. And knowing that it's 100% Canadian, everything in it, I thought that was pretty special.
Do you use the Highland? Where's Highland Hop Yard? Is that like an Albertan thing or? Albertan place?
Geez, where's Blake? I know one of the main ingredients in there came from Ontario, and that's the one, unfortunately, that based on the yields at the end of the season, you can only get one crack at it.
Yeah,
and because of Blake's relationship with a lot of these groups out there, because of who he is and who he's brewed under. we were able to get our hands on that stuff. It's pretty limited edition stuff. So yeah, anyway, it's for those that, don't know, I mean, the majority of beer out there, like you're getting a lot of your stuff, south of the border and heck, even, Australia, we have some stuff from over there. And I mean, it's all over the place, but a true Canadian 100%, beer is pretty rare thing.
100%. Yeah, it's delicious. It reminds me of, it's funny because he says UCL, he's from this Morality. They're like IPA because this beer is just like very well balanced. I think this would be a good beer for a non-IPA drinker to try.
Cool.
Nice.
Somebody who's got in from beers, fruity beers, into hazy IPAs. Like my wife, for instance, right? She's gotten to hazy IPAs a little bit now, in pale ales, but she's still having that hard time transitioning. This isn't too hoppy. It's not too resinous. It's just like well balanced. So
it's not a bomb. Yeah.
And this is your Pilsner. It's sad a bit. Here, I'll turn away your competition.
They get you a better one.
Yeah.
So there's one.
Guys, we like those guys. They're good guys.
There you go. Czech Pilsner.
Yeah.
I've started. Admittedly, I've never. Like lagers and stuff. I'm really getting into Pilsners lately, and I don't know what it is. I think it's just because I try so many different beer on the show. You just want something plain sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? You could eat all like the fancy food you want. Sometimes you just want like a hamburger, right?
Got it, man.
Yeah.
My wife is asking me if I have enough try. Yes, dear, there is. Okay, so I'm going to try this Pilsner live. It's crisp. It looks like a Pilsner, which is interesting. Like they just have this distinct, like transparent,
totally
straw color to it. Had a big white head. That's went away. I'm really nervous about
it. Don't forget, I'm coming to Lethbridge tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man, Pilsner hops are like becoming my favorite.
Yeah,
I don't know why. They're like sweet. And Pilsner is so refreshing because
it is.
Why don't you guys explain while I'm drinking this the difference why lager is brewed different than an ale? Ale being like IPA, stouts, porters. Lagers are like a completely different, longer process, right? It's cold, like warm.
It's the oldest. It's double. What is it? Double
decoction.
Decoction. Thank you. And there's a method to that. Not everyone can do it. It's Blake having trained under Bim LaFontaine and stuff, like couldn't be under a better guy. Like it's incredible, how the amazing stuff that guy does, and he's a big advocate for the whole, Czech Pilsner scene and stuff. Which Kale and I are 100%. Like that's our heart and soul. We want to do that stuff. Not saying anything against German Pilsners and stuff like that. It's just I don't know. There's just something about the way they do it over there. It's absolutely incredible. So Blake, luckily under that tutelage and I guess a real knack for picking it up. Like he brews like an old world school brewer. Like it's incredible. Cool. So that's what we're basing our whole program around. So I mean, we're very, very excited to have Blake and all this stuff because you can't believe the lineup we're about to come out with. But we're not against IPAs. We're not against any of that. That's not what we're trying to say. We want somewhere where people can come and those people that have been over in Europe and Czech Republic and Germany and stuff can come in here and they're going to have what they consider a proper pour, a proper, kind of rustic beer. And we're going to do it right. We're going to have all the different types of pours that you do. They actually have groups over there, people over there called tapsters, and they're trained to pour beer. And it's actually a pretty wild thing. So it's not like, where we pour, like to the top, to the top, and there's no head because the person's like, oh, I don't want to get screwed. I want all my beer. And it's like, okay, over there, it's a very serious, head. They even have milk pours that are, 90% head and you slam them back. And We love that stuff. So we're excited to do that and kind of bring that to
that's cool.
Calgary.
That's super cool.
And we'll do everything. We'll do it traditional. We'll do it any way they want. But we're hoping that we can share that experience. Why people actually go over there and fall in love. They think they like beer, and then they go over there and they go, "Oh my God, this is a whole different world." And we're doing a bit of that back here, right? And Blake's definitely got that passion and skill set to follow through with that.
It's really interesting because it tastes like soft water. Like it has that mouthfeel like Vancouver shower,
right?
Right? Yeah.
That's everything. So as we all know, beer is 99% water.
Yeah.
And you can, I won't be rude, but you can kind of hide behind, our hard water profile here in Calgary.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, IPAs, you can hide behind it. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? Yeah. Whereas you cannot do that with a proper lager. Like, there's no hiding. And you've got to have the right water profile, which, we have. Luckily, I don't want to give too many details away, but we've got
trade secrets, yeah.
Significant water system here in this building, and that was part of the plan from day one, even before we met Blake, which was part of why he wanted to jump over with us. He was really excited that we understood that part of it, and we're willing to go that far to ensure he has that kind of stable, soft water profile to do all the beer from. So now that we're in the building, like, it was good before at Field and Forge, no knock against them, but it's only going to get better.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
It's sweet, so it has a nice sweetness to it, like a wheat kind of sweetness to it, grainy sweetness, great mouthfeel. Like I said, it's like soft water mouthfeel, sweet. It's pretty hoppy too, which is nice. Like you can taste the Pilsner hops in it.
That's cool.
Yeah,
and it's light. It's 4.5.
Mine's still in my fridge. I'm gonna have to go get it.
Yeah, you gotta go get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mention 6.8%. You can't even tell on that IPA. That's great. But yeah, the Pilsner here, it's exactly in that range. It should be like 4.5%, 5%. So nice light. I could have a million of these. Holy
there you go.
Crushable.
So the
summertime too, right?
Term is and Blake was told this by Bim. It was someone asked, like, well, what does it taste like? It's like, it tastes like another. That's the best thing you could ever hear. Yeah. Tastes like another.
Think you think?
Yeah.
Whoa, a magic hand of beer.
Graspy hand. It's our favorite. It's everybody's favorite guest. So, are you guys gonna have a patio? Now that I've had this Pilsner, you're gonna have a patio.
I'm gonna crack it too.
Yeah, that was one of the key things. It was, and when Mike had found the location on 10th Avenue, we understood, doing our fair share of tours of duties through our course of legal drinking age here in Calgary, understanding what some of the hot spots were, Ship and Anchor, National, now right beside them, and definitely having a south-facing patio in Calgary, we think was absolutely key to get that sun exposure tracking across the building for the long spring, summer, fall months. And so we're most definitely gonna have a patio. We're a little bit limited on the egress with 10th Avenue and kind of they're opening up a big thoroughfare between developments that are happening on 14th Street, which is just east from us. There's some different things happening there. They could kind of call it the West Village development. So we're a little restricted in that sense, but we're also very encouraged by the amount of traffic. We're in proximity to the local C train station is about a block down to the west of us. So having a patio we knew was absolutely paramount to make sure that we could offer that to our guests. So sorry, well, it's probably a long version, but yes, we're going to have a patio.
Well, I was going to say for us too, that's you guys being close to the Sentry Box there for the nerds part is like, okay, games, patio, beers. Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah.
Post this summertime, I think that's going to have to be a.
Yes, we will be.
Yeah, no,
we're back, and then I think that would have to be a summer thing.
Sweet.
So one thing I was going to ask is, this will probably be like, we had a couple other topics we're going to talk about, but I don't know if we'll get them. As businessmen owning businesses, and just hearing you guys talk, like I've owned businesses and stuff, like there's something that's said about people who have that business lingo and you guys, it's pretty evident. You guys have you have that background. Does that give you an advantage in the scene? Because a lot of people they're not hobbyists, but the brewers we've talked to, they don't always have the same talk about financing and leverage and finding employees and all. You guys seem to carry that very almost like corporate speak in a good way.
Is that a good thing? Yeah.
What's the advantage? I've just been hearing so in our conversation now 35 minutes and then previous. I assume that will give you an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, you hope it would, being that this is a business, and first and foremost, I mean, yes, at the end of the day, Kale and I, this was an absolute passion project for real that we just wanted to do. Did we have to do it? No, wanted to do it, and I think when you're doing something like that, you attract other people that kind of share that same passion with you. If they, if you're aligned, like Kale says, and I think when it comes down to the business side of things, something just we've learned, whether it's an advantage or not, we've had hundreds of people work for us with us, and we've been through the gambit on that. And I think just understanding people and expectations and getting all that stuff out front and making sure, alignment is a word that we say a lot, but I mean, God, that's everything. And especially when you're starting small, starting a brand new business here, there's not a lot of us involved right now, and everybody, toes the line and understands kind of what they need to do and then some. So I think that's a big thing, but as well, Kale's the prez of both the other companies, and under his rule, they've done quite well. So, I can't speak too much, beyond that, but there's Kale and I get along, we finish each other's sentences and stuff like that. And I think that's important for partners, that work in a close environment like we do in the construction businesses as well as here. But yeah, I mean, it all starts small, and consistency and staying true to that vision is everything. And it takes a lot of discipline to do that. And, we're not afraid of the time and the effort that goes in. That's just natural for us. We, most of the time we enjoy it, but, yeah, I think it's just following through with the plan. And, if there's one thing, I'm pretty good at dreaming stuff up. Kale's really good at actually going, okay, this can work if we do it like this.
Yeah.
Or Mike, that's not going to work at all. So he doesn't usually say that. He just kind of moves on with stuff. But the brewery thing, that was something that kind of hit home with him. I was like, oh, good. Because otherwise we're going to do mining, I guess, is what we're about to get into.
Wow.
No, it is kind of twofold, Wally. I think if there is an advantage that we have is some hard lessons learned in dealing with process procedures. As Mike said, follow through is a big deal, and my opinion is that there can be a lot of pitfalls with a young entrepreneur or somebody that's entering into a new business that never really ran a business before. There's definitely a lot of moving parts they have to pay attention to, and not only enforce culture but be a steward for it. And we've really found that when you invite people in and you have the buy-in to the culture, and people don't feel that they're being ruled under thumb, they're not constantly under threat of losing their employment, and they have a voice and they can speak freely and openly about their concerns or what they see to add to the vision that's been established. Really think that's kind of integral. So if there was an advantage, perhaps, and I don't know with other breweries, I would say that's probably it, is that we have an understanding of how people work well when they're put to work.
Yeah, good. Yeah, culture was the key word, and I think Kyle will agree because we've been to many, many breweries together. Is that the culture of a brewery, even as a customer, that culture is what brings you back.
Yeah,
Here I can get great beer at dozen liquor stores in town, honestly. But for a brewery where I can go get a pour and sit, culture matters. So the ones we return to, you know, local ones and ones out of town that, okay, we're going to Calgary, we're going to this place. It's almost always a culture.
You know, that's such an interesting comment to me, because we see that as well in our limited experience with breweries. There's some fantastic beers that we've had from breweries across Alberta, Saskatchewan, out of BC that we visited, and everywhere else. But you can almost feel it when you're in the place, or, you know, if you go in for a brew tour and the brewmaster's really standoffish and that sort of stuff. Really find it's interesting with what we're trying to establish is that people feel good and want to buy our product, but also feel good about being associated with it. And we find that it's kind of that old model with, you know, Levi Strauss or Coca-Cola or something like that. Like, people identify because they can say that that's an extension of what they want to spend their their income on, their disposable income on, and also be able to show it at a party and talk with friends and introduce them into the beer, because they feel good about buying it and sharing it with friends and family, or patronizing the establishment and stuff, because it does feel like a nice, clean, friendly environment. And that's what really we're all about, and community, and trying to be synonymous with community and quality at the same time, which can be delicate. But yeah, that's an interesting thing too, because there's some fantastic beers that we've had, and I never want to go back to those breweries.
It's funny. There was one that I was that I have that too. I'm not going to name the brewery because it was pretty bad, but it was south of Calgary. I was on my way home and I stopped in for a beer, and I was like, "Oh, I've had their beer in a liquor store before," and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to go to their actual brewery and talk to them." And so I went in there and I was trying to talk to the sort of person behind the bar, and I was, "Okay, what's good? What do you like?" And they were very, very like, whatever, you know, like, I'm not really a beer drinker. I kind of like the porter, and I was just like, oh man. And it turned me off so bad that the beer is good, but I'll never have another one because of the experience in the room. And so you're absolutely hitting it on the mark, where our favorite breweries are not necessarily the best tasting, although that helps a lot too. But like, if you have a good experience and you have a good room, and it just carries you a long way.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
So before we wrap up here, where can people find your beer? Everywhere.
Yeah, we've been fortunate in the sense that kind of when we went out and decided to contract brew and get our beers out for distribution during the COVID period, we had the opportunity. Mike and I did it ourselves and made some connections. So we're in throughout Calgary and Edmonton in the co-ops, liquor depots, Wine and Beyonds, Willow Park, Urban Cellars. Actually, we just made a road trip out to Saskatchewan, and we're going through that process with specialty orders out there. So we have some people that are committed to us out there and believe in us and everything else. So, and as I mentioned, I'm heading down to Lethbridge to revisit some accounts down that way. So there's quite a few Highlander. There's quite a few places. We're in about 200 vendors throughout Alberta, and we're hoping to complement that quickly with another 20 to 30 in Saskatchewan to start with, and then our plan forward is to get into Manitoba in short order now that we have our license when we're bringing out the building, and past that, quite frankly, we have designs and in trying to make this thing reach its potential, and we believe that there's nothing stopping us from getting into Ontario and British Columbia past the prairies.
Cool. Nice.
You keep making beers like this Pilsner, I don't think it'll be a big issue.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
I was going to say, I know it's IPApril, but actually, when I sipped that Pilsner, I was like, oh, goddamn, that's really good. Yeah. Like, I know I'm breaking the IPApril thing here, but it's
actually, what's funny is, like, Kyle I could have drank it out of the can. You don't need to pour it into a glass. It's one of those beers you could, like, it's so.
I know, I sipped it too, and I was like, yep, it's happening.
So pure that the can's not going to.
Look for this. Yeah, look for this.
Yeah.
You guys like to fish?
I do not fish.
Oh, you do not fish. Well, this is a great beer for fishing.
Yeah. It's a great beer for anything. Actually.
And doing it.
I was actually thinking about back patio. That's like backyard patio. That's where I'm headed right after this. Back there. I'm going to take that with me. Yeah.
It's worth a lot. So this will be a camping staple, because it's nice to have low alcohol beer when you're camping. You can have a couple dozen and you're good.
Agreed.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. Where can we find you guys? Your website, Instagram, anywhere?
Yeah, we have our Instagram is just under Tailgunner Brewing, and our website is www.tailgunner.ca. And we're actually in the throes of actually relaunching our website and supplementing our Facebook and Instagram right now, because we're able to do online deliveries towards the end of April. So we're sure excited for that, for people to put an order in, and it'll be Mike and I, growing business, that come and deliver it to your house and introduce ourselves and everything else if that person's around. So yeah, that's we're looking to grow some different things with our social media and branding as we enter into summer and spring.
Your Instagram's really good. I don't know who does the pictures, but they're excellent.
Yeah, that's actually Mike's wife, Shannon. That heads that up, and we've been very lucky with a bunch of our supporters sending in pictures of them enjoying beers, kind of all over the province. So we've been using that as a platform and as a community-based, picture profile, and yeah, we're excited to launch.
And Tanya, Kale's wife, is she created her website, and she's about to relaunch again with a brand spanking new one with everything going on. So, we talk community, we talk family, we're all in.
Yeah.
Awesome. That was a great interview, guys. Thanks so much. And great beer. Great beer.
Yeah, thanks very much.
So
Excellent.
today, for everybody watching, we had their Johnny Lake Mid-Upper Gunner Canadian Harvest IPA. Great.
Linton Stevenson.
Accessible IPA. And then, yes, the Linton Stevenson Czech Pilsner, which was like, man.
Thank you so much, guys.
Get after it. It's good.
Really appreciate having us on.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
We'll see you in the summertime, hey? When that patio's done, we'll be up.
Anytime.
Poke your heads in.
Awesome.
Thanks,
for everybody here, we're up.